Experience hospitality the Northwest way at the Everglades Hotel. Located on the banks of the River Foyle, the Everglades Hotel is just minutes from the centre of Derry, Londonderry, with free on-site guest car parking. Whether you're here for a family meal, a big celebration, or simply a peaceful retreat, will make your experience as memorable as the sights in the city. Visit Everglades Hotel Derry for accommodation bookings, the latest menus, live shows and events, and much, much more. See you there.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Gaelic Lives podcast. We now know our Ulster final pairing for the year. It's the same as last year. It's Armagh against Donegal in 2 weeks' time in Clonus. So we have 2 weeks to build up to that game. But today we're going to look back at the two semi-finals. On Saturday, it was Armagh who defeated Tyrone by a point, while on Sunday, Down got beat by Donegal by 6 in the end. We have interviews coming up with all four managers from the semi-finals, and we're going to start with Armagh and Tyrone. We'll break that game down. And Mal, I'm going to come to you first as the neutral on the pod. Obviously, I'm an Armagh head and Nell's Tyrone. So, was it a free at the end? Was it a free for Conor Turbot, or how did you see it?
To be honest, I didn't see any replays because I was watching it on my phone as I was about to step into mass, so I haven't watched the game back at all. First instinct was it was a free. I think it probably summed up the fact that maybe Petey went in too early on the tackle, possibly. And I think it maybe adds in the fact that when you bring on Turbot and Sippy late on and they're fresh, it's maybe that fresh zip that Turbot brought. I think it was him won the free at the end, and I think so. Yeah. So maybe that was the advantage. But I think my gut instinct was, but probably looking back on it, the kick out before it probably just turned the game completely. Tyrone just needed to get their hands on the ball because they had made a great job of getting back into the game. But a big call, but I think without seeing the replay, I think it was a free.
I obviously going to say it was a free. Now, I think from the camera angle, it was questionable enough. I thought from the camera angle, it looked like, the two boys just going wholeheartedly for the ball. But I think Cahir O'Kane maybe had a video from the media box, and it was the other side of the field, obviously a different angle. I think Turbot just got to the ball first, and Petey Hart was maybe a bit late. So Tyrone maybe a wee bit aggrieved, but possibly the right decision was made.
As a Tyrone fella, I'm not going to agree with you, Sean. What am I supposed to say? No, I'm only joking. It was just a tough one to take from a Tyrone perspective. It looked like the hard part had been done. They went 2 points up, and the last 5 minutes couldn't have gone much worse. I suppose culminating in that free. Tyrone only touched the ball once in that last 3 minutes, basically. That restart Mal alluded to from Niall Morgan. So between the free and between everything else, those last 5 minutes were disappointing. You can make an argument either way for the free. I can see why David Goff gave it, but at the same time, I don't think Peter Hart, he didn't do a pile wrong, really. He just had his arms outstretched, and it was just a meeting the two players, and Turbot came off the worst of it. So there we are, I suppose.
It looked at a stage now, Armagh were maybe 6 or 7 points up, and I thought the start of the second half they were playing some brilliant stuff. But Tyrone come back into it. Obviously, the 2 pointers from Petey Hart and Darren McCurry brought them back in, and Tyrone's bench gave them a good lift. You had Petey Hart with a 2-pointer, Owen McElhone kicked 2 points. Park Hampsey coming back in. I think that's his first minutes of the year. Ben McDonald won the only Armagh kick out that Tyrone won. So between the 2 pointers on the subs bench, it gave Tyrone a good boost.
Yeah, when Armagh went 6 points up, but I suppose given I'm not exactly neutral, I was finding it hard to watch, to be honest, because Armagh were really good. I haven't seen them too often in the flesh in recent years. I missed the league match earlier in the year, for example, against Tyrone, and I thought they were very good, very fluid, very slick, very composed. And when they went 6 points up, I thought Tyrone were in for a long, long second half. And then I think a few things turned the thing back in Tyrone's favour. The introduction of Owen McElhone was massive. I thought he brought a serious amount of energy, and he scored 2 points, and he was fantastic. And he'll give Malachy O'Rourke plenty to think about the next time he picks a Tyrone team. Ben McDonald, as you say, made a big impact. Peter Hart. Maybe Tyrone are always going to get a bit of a purple patch. It wasn't just the fact that the purple patch, but the fact that they scored a lot from it as well. There was that big moment where Cian McGeeney kicked I didn't see the incident, but he apparently kicked the sideline flag and Tyrone got a 2-pointer out of it. And that felt massive at the time. There was an incident as well where Ethan Rafferty arguably fouled Derek Canavan and got away with it. Though, to be fair, I thought the referee had a decent enough game, to be honest. I don't think he was unduly harsh on Tyrone or anything like that. But yeah, it looked like Tyrone were going to win it. But with these new rules, it feels like teams have never won the game that's actually over, Sean.
I think one of the new rules is the hooter that, Armagh knew. Well, probably last year, once Rory Grugan puts that ball over the bar, David Goff's going to give Tyrone one last chance. There's going to be one more kick out. That wasn't the case on Saturday. And once Conor Turbot was fouled, Armagh fans and players alike celebrated the free had already gone over the bar. But I suppose that's just the impact of the hooter. And it was the same with Meath in Dublin. You knew the game was over before the ball was even out of play.
Yeah, it definitely, and then if you go to Cork and Kerry as well, and I think it was Cian McGeeney was interviewed after the game. I was reading quotes somewhere where he said it's the one rule that's definitive. There's no grey area with it. Like if you go back to Derry and Donegal in Ballybofey 2021, where Derry just kept the ball, and the referee says, "Hold on a minute, lads, I'm blowing this up. You're going nowhere." Whereas it's now, as I say, it's definitive, and at least you know where you stand with it. The unfortunate thing is it's not at every single ground. But there was actually a bizarre moment at the end of, I think it was a game at the weekend where somebody kicked the ball and it went out over the end line for a 45. The person thought I thought that was a game, and it was just kicked out over the end line. The player got absolutely carried away. So no, it adds a bit of intrigue, but then I think then the issue is if you've got the controversy like the Monaghan versus Donegal one, where I was chatting to a few Monaghan people yesterday in Clonus, and they still feel aggrieved about it because it's a fine line, and it's a bit like the one where like Petey Hart versus Conor Turbot. The decision at the end is the one that everybody's always going to remember. And I actually thought that one where Rafferty fouled Derek Canavan, I thought that was a big enough call at the time. I remember watching it and thinking, big call there, and probably Armagh got away with that one. But now, as I say, the decisions at the end of the game are the ones that you probably are always going to remember. And from Tyrone's point of view, they'll probably rue the fact that they left themselves far too much to do, because they've proven to have a good squad, but they were just that wee bit far behind, and Armagh were able to manage it, I suppose.
Well, just before we move on, spoke about Rafferty there. I think he gave an exhibition of kickouts on Saturday. Brilliant variation. I think he lost one in the second half, so it was 23 out of 24 retained kickouts from Rafferty, and Tyrone did sort of leave that pocket to the corner back, but there was plenty of variation too with Rafferty's kickouts. There was plenty of times he went long and picked players out. So I don't think there's any more debate about the number one jersey. It's going to be Rafferty's, and not only that, he's excelling as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, funny. I was thinking about that. I was out for a walk this morning, thinking about that. No one would be talking about it, and I think that's definitely gone. His kicking was exceptional, but I think there must be an unbelievable level of detail and understanding with all the players out the field, because the problem with the kick-out arc is once the goalie puts it in the tee and you've got nobody moving for you, there's nothing you can do. Armagh seem to be so fluid in everything they do, and I can't actually remember when it was, Sean. There was a kick out where he kicked out to Turbot out on right out on the touchline whenever you thought he had nothing else to go for. But Merlin's a wee bit of a freak that way. He seems to be able to catch ball with anybody, but even that moment itself was another reason why they're successful, and another reason why they're major contenders again.
Now, just before we move on, I suppose a bit of a worry for Armagh was the fact that Oisín O'Neill seemed to go off injured, Andrew Murnan went off injured, Charlie O'Byrne seemed to pick up a shoulder injury at the end of the game. So 2 weeks, I know we're going to hear from Cian McGeeney now, and he sort of spoke about the impact of Ben Creeley and Paddy Burns and players like that coming back into the fold, but it just seems Armagh can't get their best 15 on the field. There's always an injury or a niggle somewhere along the line.
Yeah, and Kieran McGinney, he was asked about it after the game, and he said something interesting because obviously Armagh, they've lost back-to-back Ulster finals, and they haven't won one since 2008. And he was asked about the importance of winning an Ulster, and he said, "Well, yes," but he mentioned All Ireland series and said he wouldn't be rushing players back. So yeah, Armagh would love the win an Ulster, but it sounds to me like McGinney's prioritising the All Ireland ultimately, which I thought was interesting. At the same time, they're depleted as it is, and I thought that they showed very little ill effects to that. And on Saturday, I thought they were very, very slick, and because I think the fact that they were down so many men and still won was quite impressive, really. And obviously, lads who I haven't been too aware of, like Callum O'Neill having such a brilliant game, it bodes well for Armagh going forward. That when they do get all these men back, there's a hell of a squad there, Sean.
So as I mentioned, we're going to hear from Kieran McGinney now. We're going to hear from Malach O'Rourke as well, and we're also going to hear from our sponsors, Hastings Hotel, and then we'll be back in part 2 and we'll talk all things down on Donegal. Hey Kieran, what's the relief? Is the overall riding emotion at the minute, is it?
No, I thought we played well throughout the game, but just thought the boys played really well to control the game. There's some things beyond their control, and I thought they reacted really well to it, like to finish out the game. And like I can't ask more than that.
Talking about control, just them last couple of minutes, like just waiting to the right time, getting up to the ball with the right shooter.
Yeah, like it's that, just like, not giving away possession, like throwing it very quick on the counter, like they excel when they're given space, and like there's some great runners. So did well, because they said like they stayed calm when it counted most, because like, a lot of things were going against them at that stage.
And the subs made a massive impact here. Soupy obviously kicking one, Cian McConville, Conor Turbot won the free at the end.
Yeah, no, I thought they all, but listen, we have quality coming back, like, and to get Paddy in, getting legs on him, Ben in, getting legs again, like, it was a big sort of plus for us. He Turbo back on, Soupy back on, that haven't had much football, like, so it's a lot to do with Jason pushing hard there too, coming back into 30, Jason Duffy, and we hope to see Aaron McKay and Joe McElroy soon as well, like, so it's great to get a game like that there and get some game time into some big players, like. Grimbo's back in the 26th as well, like, and he's hungry for game time too, and he's pushing. So listen, we can't ask for more than that. But no, an excellent display again by Callum, like, chipping in with a couple of points. So very good. Listen, we have some big names missing, and we have had all year, and it's trying to get enough game time into them so that they become relevant. But in fairness to the young boys that have played, like, you look at Tomas McCormick and Darren McMullen and Callum, we've had a lot of boys putting their hand up. Gareth Murphy came in the last time as well, like, they've done a great job. So as we all know, we're only as good as our next one. So listen, boys pushing hard for places. For us to find in a row's a great testament to the group of fellas that are there. I don't think it should have been as tight. You just have to react to whatever punches are thrown, and you sort of. I thought the boys did really well under the circumstances. Like, stayed really calm. Like, and I thought, like, we played well, as I said, controlled most of the game. Like, throwing were good too, but we put ourselves in a good position. Like, with about 20 to go, and then there's just a raft to freeze. But we kept calm near the end, and were able to take off the shots.
We wanted the boys to go for it, not to be passive, and not to be sort of afraid to lose, if you like. Want to go and attack the game. Probably in the first half we were a wee bit passive. I thought in the second half at that period when we went behind, we did start to really go at Armagh, and in fairness to them, they showed the quality. They showed the why they're All Ireland champions over the way they finished the game. But not that we'd be a wee bit disappointed in that. But at least that's the good thing is we live to fight another day. The Ulster Championship is gone, but we have a go with the All Ireland series, and we look forward to that. So there was a couple of controversial calls there, all right. But look, it's hard to say that, and I suppose it went for both teams, and we're not going to use that as an excuse. We've got ourselves in a good position, without playing our best, and just disappointed we didn't finish it off. Owen made a big impact when he came in, and he just brought that wee bit of injection at the right time, wee bit of injection of pace, and was able to take men on and create chances for himself. But no, that was the most pleasing thing about it, was that at the time when we went 5 or 6 down, we obviously didn't throw in the towel, but there was good fight there, there was good character shown, and that's our, I suppose, our number one aim is to have that, first of all, that we'll fight right to the final whistle, and we got that today. But we're just obviously disappointed. The quality of our play wasn't what we would have liked. We struggled on both kickouts a lot of times, so there was a lot of things that we need to get much better. But at the same time, we got ourselves into a great position to win the game. we're just disappointed we weren't able to do that. Hey, we would have been disappointed with plenty of aspects of performance as well. We know that, we won't win matches, against the top teams playing like that either. So, we were pleased with the Garda. We were pleased with the fact that the boys kept going right to the end. And towards the end, our work rate was really good. And we did manufacture a couple of really good quality scores. So we wanted to test ourselves against All Ireland champions. We felt that earlier on when we played the National League in the first half in particular, they ran through us to a degree. As the game went on, we got a wee bit closer. But so we knew that it was going to be a good benchmark for us going forward to see how much we had improved, how close we were to the All Ireland champions. I think even though without playing our best, I think we came close enough. We could hold the game, obviously. So look, there's plenty of positive to take out of it, but there's a lot of things that we need to improve as well.
Experience hospitality the Northwest way at the Everglades Hotel. Located on the banks of the River Foyle, the Everglades Hotel is just minutes from the centre of Derry, Londonderry, with free on-site guest car parking. Whether you're here for a family meal, a big celebration, or simply a peaceful retreat, will make your experience as memorable as the sights in the city. Visit Everglades Hotel Derry for accommodation bookings, the latest menus, live shows and events, and much, much more. See you there.
So on to the second semi-final of the weekend then. This was Sunday's game in Clonus. It was Donegal against Down, and now I think just outside the first 15 or 20 minutes maybe, Down probably played all the football, played most of the football during that time, but it just felt throughout this game that Donegal just had them at arm's length, and just that wee bit of quality, that wee bit of extra class. It was hard to see Down ever sort of getting into the game and really having a chance of winning this.
Yeah, early on they were doing rightly. Eugene Brannigan in particular was having a big impact. Very good playmaker. Like he's a slight fella, but he had a good game. But on the whole, once Paddy McBrady, I suppose, palmed the ball into the net, there was a sense of inevitability about it because of Donegal's superior firepower. I think I just couldn't see a way that they wouldn't come through it one way or the other. And in fairness, Down gave a credible display. I didn't say incredible, I said credible. They lost by 6 points. It was 119 to 16 points at the final whistle. So they'll take a bit of heart from it. Just Donegal, they weren't at their imperious best, but they did enough, and they were probably always going to do enough. Sean,
I think, man, that's how I would have felt about it. That if Down maybe had got a couple of the goals that they created the opportunities, but if they had got them, Donegal had another gear or two to go. Like it just felt Donegal were just doing enough to get through without breaking much of a sweat.
Yeah, after half time, Down got a couple of scores, and nearly Donegal tried to slow the game down just to try and kill any momentum Down would have. And I suppose Ronan Burns, it was his 20th birthday, and he's pulled off two of the best saves. The one from Dara Boyle, I've no idea how he saved it. It was class. And then at the end, and funny, Conor Laverty touches in this one as well. The one where Patton, as much as he was excellent, he fluffed the kick out and it ended up with Shea Miller. And he possibly could have squared it to Pat Havern, maybe for a palm in. I think maybe Paddy McCarthy might have been there as well. I'm not too sure, but the save then that probably put an end to it all. But actually, it was 10-1 in the bookies for the first 5 minutes not to produce a score at all. We were chatting about it in the press box, and that you just were wondering what Down were going to do, because like you remember what Armagh met last year, and they did a pretty decent job. They kept the ball out of contact. And like as Niall says, like Eugene Brannigan, there's not much to him, but that type of player Down have, him and Danny McGill, they're excellent at taking, if there's a space, they can use it. So they actually had everything pretty well done from that point of view. The problem was then whenever the margin happens, then Donegal they hold all the cards at that point, because they're 4 points up, and like the goal was a biggie. But like Dara Boyle kicked another 2-pointer. But aside from that, Down's matchups were quite good. They actually matched up better against Donegal than I thought they would have. But it probably all came back to that one kick out of Sean Patton's. Like Conor Laverty said afterwards, that the squad had basically spent all of Friday together as a group to basically get the game plan together, because they only had a week. And I think they did something like that last year against Armagh, if I'm right, where they dedicated the day to see can they, create an ambush. And from that point of view, they actually did better in patterns than I thought anybody could have done, because they stopped them going short as much as they could. But that one over the top, it just undone them. And before that, they kicked one over the top where Micheál Rudy was in behind midfield. I'm not sure if the camera showed it, but he was in behind midfield where that, nearly the covering player. But when he hit that one to Murphy, it went over the top of Murphy's fingertips into Oisín Gallen. It was just in front of me, and I thought to myself, oh dear, Down's in trouble here, because Langan was in behind him. And it was probably two sides of the coin. Like John McGill cut in one time. Could he have went for a goal? Probably not. Probably should have fisted it over the bar. Paddy McCarthy was at the far post. But it was all too, they didn't have the crispness that Donegal had, whereas it was kick out, Gallen, Langan, across goal, McBeardy, bang, back of the net, and then catch-up time. So even those two scores probably summed up the difference in the way the game went. And then obviously coming down to the save at the end, like Connor did say that if they had got the goal, he doesn't know if they'd have beat Donegal, but it might have made the last few minutes that wee bit uneasy. And, as Niall chatted about from the Tyrone point of view, the last 3 or 4 minutes of that game where Tyrone were in control, but then they didn't win the game. So they'll be thinking about that today, how close could they have taken it? And they also said something, they've also got the All-Ireland series to go into now, where that was the Hilton Cup. Like they nearly beat Armagh, and the prize for nearly beating Armagh was to be out of All-Ireland. Whereas this year, they can now get their teeth into Wednesday's draw and seeing what comes down the tracks. But I think as a county, and I'm not sure because I don't know enough about Down club football, but I know that Conor Laverty and his management team, they've trawled the county looking for size. Like with Brannigan, Micheál Rooney, Calum Dock, all these players that are good on the ball and they can find space. But, whenever your goalkeeper puts the ball down in the tee, you need to be able to see like a Callum O'Neill out on the wing, or Andrew Murnan, or somebody right out on that sideline where you can land it on top and think, 7 or 8 times out of 10 you'll be able to get a ball off it. And that's probably what they're lacking, and that's probably what they're going to have to try and develop through their youth. Maybe see is there something out there in the clubs, because they have closed the gap. That's 2 years in a row, albeit they probably weren't as competitive this year as they were last year, but they are closing the gap. But until they get a wee bit of size around the middle to mix into what they're doing right, I think they're always going to be playing catch up. But again, as I say, that's not a debate that the next 2 or 3 minutes are going to solve. That's probably something for the county to look into.
Donegal, just before we move on, talk about Armagh's injuries heading into the Ulster final. I think Donegal are fairly well set. Maybe McGonigal is the only one that they're sort of sweating over, are they?
McGonigal hurt his calf against Derry, and Mark Kern, I'm not sure, it might be an ankle injury, but he hasn't even been in the 26 either, because Cialan McColgan's got in ahead of him. But funny, I thought Donegal coped really well without McGonigal. And I thought it was a strange decision. We actually forgot to ask Jim about the Hugh McFadden situation, because when McGonigal was out, he's got that, we're always going back to kick out, Sean. You go back to positional sense, McGonigal's brilliant. And then Hugh McFadden wasn't there. But, between Kieran Moore and McManaman, and even to a certain extent, Brent McCole, there always seems to be a centre. And that's the one thing I did notice before we finish up on this game, because there's only 9,000 people at the game. You could hear the messages, and you could hear Laverty shouting out and trying to get Mickey Donnelly and the boys to get the message out for Ronan Burns to cover the space, to be the sweeper. And you could actually hear Michael Murphy on the pitch, and between him and Jim, they were directing operations. So you could just hear that. So you just wonder, is Michael Murphy the Donegal manager and waiting? So whenever Jim does call time, it's a man ready to step in, because he was literally calling the shots, and that's what leaders do. If you scratch the surface in any team, you'll have 2 or 3 men who call the shots, and we could all hear them yesterday.
So we're going to hear from Jim McGuinness on Conor Laverty at the end of the show, but we'll run through the hurling results from the weekend and then our highlights just before we wrap up. So Antrim tasted defeat against Kilkenny in the Leinster Championship, while Down lost to Laois in the Joe McDonagh Cup. In the Christy Ring Cup, Donegal were big winners over Tyrone, while Meath and Derry played out a really good game, with Meath just coming out on top by the minimum of margins. The Nicky Rackard Cup, Armagh lost out to Roscommon by a goal, while Sligo were 7-20 to 2-18 winners over Fermanagh. And in the Larry Maher Cup, it was Monaghan who bounced back from last week's defeat to beat Warwickshire, while Cavan picked up a win over Lancashire as well. So, in our highlights of the week then, and player of the week, Mal, I'll come to you first. You've went with Ethan Rafferty, and we spoke a bit about him on the pod, but so just tell us why you've selected him.
It was just his kick-out exhibition that was the big difference that gave him the platform. But I should probably, only we haven't enough room in that small box, Sean, is Ethan Rafferty and the runners, because collectively they were just brilliant, and it was the difference. Albeit there was a point in the game at the end, I thought that was the difference on how Armagh dictated the game for so long.
Now you picked out Michael Langan from Donegal.
Yeah, a very good game, and I suppose the battle between himself and Owen Murdoch was always going to be important. And Michael not only shaded it, but played a big role up front as well. He set up the goal and he had a 2-point free, Sean.
I went with Darren McCurry. I thought he was just exceptional at the weekend, and there's not many players get the better of Barry McCambridge, but McCambridge really struggled to tie McCurry down, so I picked him as my player of the week. And no surprises, my result of the week was Armagh beating Tyrone by a point, not 23 to not 22. And Niall, your result of the week was the Cork Hurlers beating Tipperary.
Yeah, Cork have been in flying form. I know they probably let it slip a wee bit against Clare last weekend, but they've got back in the wagon with a 14-point win over Tipperary, so they're flying it.
Well, your result of the week is Meath's win over Dublin. Me and Niall went for pick that game as shock of the week, so we'll let you cover it. It was definitely the result of the week. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I knew you would pick it for shock, so I wanted to go for a result, because I think it says a lot about the game, this result. The Leinster Championship can now have some life back. Division 2 next year is in a completely different prospect again for the likes of Derry and Tyrone. And obviously now Meath have just laid out the gauntlet to counties of what they can do, because they had a bit of size, they kicked 2-pointers, and a massive result for them. It really was. Was it the first time in, was it 15 years or something, they beat Dublin? So a massive result, coming on the back of a bit of sort of controversy and around the backroom team about men leaving and stuff. And when that happens, you're always wondering what's actually happening in there. And for them to go and beat the Dubs in the manner they did was just brilliant.
I'll stick with you, Mal, for as you said, you chose something different for the shock of the week. You picked the Waterford Hurlers beating Clare.
Yeah, well, I suppose Clare, they're all Ireland champions, albeit they're not firing as much as they were last year. And like Waterford stepped up from the division below, so a huge result for Waterford. And again, it just shoots more life into that Munster Championship, and God knows who's going to come out of it. But I'm sure Waterford people are buzzing today.
Score of the week, I went for Stephen Campbell's equaliser for Armagh against Tyrone. Just come off the man. He stepped up. He was only on the field a couple of minutes and landed a super score. And now you've picked Peter Hart's 2-pointer from that game as well as your score of the week.
Yeah, it was just a classy point from Peter, without saying it was bout at a time when Tyrone were in the ascendancy. And I understand Peter didn't start because he'd been poorly during the week, as had Matty Donnelly. But he still did very well when he came on, and it was a great score.
And your score of the week, Mal, was Patrick McBurdy's goal.
Yeah, probably more to do with Sean Patton's kick and how Down dealt with it so well for most of the game. But on this one occasion, it beat everybody, but it didn't beat Langan, it didn't beat Oisín Gallen, and the ball was in the back of the net, and it turned the game. And another reason why coaches across Ireland should be trying to find out how to coach people to kick like Sean Patton.
And Niall, your unsung hero of the week was from that game. You picked down goalkeeper Ronan Burns.
Yeah, generally it's to the victors the spoils, but there's no doubt Ronan had a brilliant game, and partly he only turned 20 yesterday, so wasn't a particularly happy birthday for him maybe, but I think he still deserves to get the plaudits, Sean.
Yeah, I picked out Eugene Bronigan as unsung hero of the week. I thought he was brilliant for Down, particularly at the start of the game when it gave them a good chance. And the goal probably, as we mentioned earlier, just killed any hope for Down. But Mal, your unsung hero then, Amy McAllister from Antrim.
Yeah, their Camogues won the an All Ireland Maynard title at the weekend, and on the back of sort of the Camogues winning Division 1, things are looking up from the county. She scored 7 points from play. There was loads of good performances, but 7 points from play any day of the week is significant. And I remember Amy Boyle on here a few weeks ago in the pod chatting about how excited she was about the minors in the county. So maybe Amy is going to be one of the players we'll be reporting on in more detail whenever she gets into the senior ranks.
So that's all for our podcast today, folks. We're going to hear from Jim McGuinness and Conor Laverty. Mal caught up with them in Clonus on Sunday. So we're going to hear from them now, and we'll be back during the week. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Mal and Niall for coming on board and talking about the games. And we're just going to finish with interviews from the two men. So see everybody next week.
We kind of knew what was going to happen, you know. I think Down had a very similar game plan to the approach that they had against Armagh last year, you know, and they were patient on the ball. They were probably trying to slow the game down a wee bit initially, flooded a lot of players inside, and then looked to bring more players out the way, so to open up a wee bit of pockets of space there inside the D, and sort of we had to be patient with that, you know. And also championship games anyway, that's one of the number one things you have to have is patience. So they always end up coming to life at some stage. It's just important that you're ready for that and deal with that, and hopefully take your moments when the moments come, you know. So yeah, listen, delighted to get over the line. Obviously 2 weeks now. That was our third game today in 3 weeks in the Ulster Championship. It's a lot of going for the players and the supporters, I suppose, in many respects, but we're delighted to be in the final. Obviously Armagh and ourselves know each other very well at this stage. Played them last year in the final and played them in the league last year, and we'll be looking forward to that challenge. I would imagine it'll be definitely Clonus, but yeah, listen, we're delighted to be there, and you know, obviously they're All-Ireland champions. Had a brilliant game last night against Tyrone, and enthralling game against Tyrone, so yeah, the massive challenge ahead of us, but we have to look forward to it.
Jim, you talked about the week on week, and obviously the Ulster Championship's a big thing for you.
Yeah.
How do you sort of assess coming through that scenic route, you know, how you've got so far? Are you happy enough with where things are?
Definitely very happy, yeah, very happy. Just, and again, you know, we have managed in the main to keep people healthy. You know, we lost Keelan McGonigal in the Derry game with a calf injury, you know, and you know, one or two others with small niggles, but in the main we'd be able to keep them healthy. And obviously now we have the bonus of 2 weeks. It sounds like a bit ridiculous to be saying that, you know. Historically you would have had a month maybe, or 3 weeks at the minimum to prepare for an Ulster final, but 2 weeks seems like a good period of time now to get them recovered, and then obviously start working on the training pitch to try and get ready for the match.
A lot of people maybe see Keelan McGonigal's gone under the radar, but he's so important for you. He's nearly a regular. He puts out so many fires. Is that a difficult one to cope with because of how versatile he is?
And that's the depth part, you know, and people stepping in. Kieran Moore stepped in there the day, and he's Mr. Versatile, you know. No matter what job we give him, he's able to step in and do it, you know, and got us up the pitch there as well a couple of times in crucial moments, himself and Shane, when Down went with the high press. So yeah, happy with him as well, and that'll be good for him. He's a young boy himself. He's only 21 maybe at this stage of the game, so he's learning every day he goes out as well. And you know, even at his age, you know, this morning when you're naming a team, you're confident that he'll be able to do a job for you, which is a great trait in any young player.
And you think you want Clonus?
Definitely we want Clonus. I think Alan, that you know, our supporters have been through enough. You know, in all fairness, 3 games in 3 weeks is a lot of money out of everybody's bank accounts, you know, when you're bringing kids and stuff. And I know I'm like a broken record on this, but I firmly believe it, you know, and I don't believe that our supporters should be going to Dublin and the expense that incurs. You know, they should be going to Clonus, and they should be playing the game in Clonus. And I think that part of it, you know, 4 games in 5 weeks should be respected. It should be respected. Like, you know, who are we serving? This is a question, like, and it's a genuine question. Who are we serving? You know, it's not the children, and it's not the old people, and it's not the people that are struggling to put a couple of pounds away. You know, a lot of families in Donegal are saving money and not doing other things so they can follow the team, and that has to be respected. You know, so we'll be pushing for Clonus without a shadow of a doubt.
From a Clonus point of view, as a player, playing in front of a packed house versus 40,000 at Croke Park, is that a debate? Because surely players love running at that tunnel when it's packed.
Yeah, well, listen, they love playing in Croke Park as well. Don't get me wrong. But like Clonus is where the Ulster finals are played, and for those reasons I spoke about in terms of our supporters, we would just be very passionate about playing the game here.
Listen, we're very disappointed. Just the way the game planned out, just probably they kept us at arm's length a wee bit, just coming down that last straight. Felt there was moments in the game that sort of swung it. We had an easy scoring opportunity. They Patton's weapon of a kick out then hurts us from the long kick out. Probably disappointed that our defenders weren't playing in front. But I thought we responded well after that. Then in the second half, I know they had goal chances. I thought our keeper was brilliant in two massive moments. But if our goal chance goes in, the rules, the way they are now, the momentum, everything, it was going to. I'm not saying that we would have beat Donegal, but I'm saying it would have made it very interesting coming down the home straight if that goal had went in.
That's the Miller chance you're talking about. At that moment in the game, it was.
What minute was that? I knew it was in around 7 or 8 minutes. So if that had went in, then we had a couple of opportunities. But listen, we understood the task that we were coming into here today. Like, people are making Donegal's favourites for the All Ireland, but I was very proud of the performance that the lads put in. I felt that this is a young down team, and the experiences to play against that level of opposition is something that this team needs to grow after playing in the Tailteann Cup and playing Division 3 for a number of years. Whenever you're playing against the best players and coming up against the best teams in Ireland, that you learn from that and your experiences. But geez, we had massive plans coming into the game, and we had a game plan, and I felt the lads stuck to it very well. But probably inevitably the game came down just to moments of maybe inexperience and them having that wee bit more experience.
Conor, last year your plan nearly worked. It didn't work, but it nearly worked. But you touched on Sean Patton. How difficult is it to prepare for somebody like him? From your point of view, about push up, stay off, because he's so varied.
Listen, I feel Sean Patton's the best goalkeeper in the country. His kick-out's a weapon, and particularly with the new rules now, you can't drop off kick-outs and give teams possessions, because if Donegal get the ball in hand 80% of the time they're getting a shot away. So you have to be brave with the new rules, but also with that bravery then becomes the danger for the out over the top. Like we had identified that, we had worked in that, we had spoke about that, but it's whenever you're investing bodies in to try to score, and he's off the line so quickly with the tee and he has the ball away. They've been doing it for years, Donegal, that kick out down the middle and the tap on, but still felt we could have dealt with that a wee bit better. I wouldn't be disappointed with how we coped with Patton's kickouts today now. I know that one definitely hurt us and probably won them the game, but if our maybe defenders had to be in front at that stage, it mightn't have been the same danger. I'd just be disappointed with that.
I suppose it's the level of concentration that's needed.
Without a doubt, and it's a case where you can't go zonal against a keeper like that there, because he just picks you off anyway. So it's a very difficult thing whenever you've invested 11 bodies up the field and they're looking to hurt you out over the top, and you're trying to scramble back into shape, and then your matchups go because you're all over the place. So you can't go with a matchup then, because you're just trying to get a body as quick as you can to play on, so you're not leaving free spaces. So there's so many different facets to deal with on Sean Patton's kickouts. It's crazy. Like, and we dialed into them in so much detail. Like, the hours that this group have spent together this week is crazy. Like, them lads give up a whole Friday that we spent together and prepared for this game. We were with each other. Couldn't explain to you the amount of hours this week in preparation for this. And whenever it's all stripped away back, I know the result didn't go our way, but I was very, very proud of them, because there was a lot coming into this game. A lot of people their whole concentration was where the Ulster final, where Donegal and Armagh going to play in Croke Park, and geez, we would have loved to have that's the script that was wrote, and we would have loved to have racked that script, but inevitably they're probably Donegal were the better team. They deserve to win the game, but I do feel in some of them moments that it would have been very interesting if we had just made a better decision in certain moments.